the Sixers have positioned themselves with the 5th highest odds of obtaining the number 1 pick and a 64% chance of keeping the pick entering the lottery in May, which is May 12th. So we're just under a month away from the lottery, which is going to be huge for us on the show and just in general for our Sixers future. But back to the question. So we have a lot of Sixer fans who are kind of saying the way the season ended up in the end, actually, we were going to be a team that without Embiid, without Paul George and Max, this team, even if we did make the playoffs, we were going to be one and done in the playing game. So it was kind of nice to come away with Quentin Grimes and also potentially keeping our pick. So with that, if we end up keeping our pick, and whether it's top 6, wherever that lands, would you guys call this season a success in the end? Because I've seen a lot of that from our fan base.
I mean, I don't think it was a success based on how the season started, as far as how we were going to go, and as far as the play, it was the expectations. It definitely wasn't like a success.
Yeah.
But I think the way the season went and how it ended up with guys getting injured and not playing, it became you executed the plan better at the end of the season. Yes, that plan was executed great, but the overall plan, as far as what you want to do in the season and what this team the way it was built, no, this is definitely a failure of a season from that standpoint.
I pretty much agree. Start a season, epic failure. Obviously, you want to at least be fighting for.
I can't see this uncomfortable.
At least you want to be fighting for a playoff spot, or trying to get into the playoffs. But once we had the major injuries, and we were a couple games out of that play-in, and it was clear that Embiid wasn't coming back, and George was still basically probably not coming back, and Tyrese was probably not coming back. I'd say keeping it is a huge win for us, because not only do you have the draft pick, you mentioned Grimes, Edwards, finding out what you had in some of these guys was just also huge. Bona looks like a legit backup big. Edwards looks like a legit, at least bench piece. Grimes looks like a possible starter. So I just think, you have all kinds of a lot of positives even outside the pick. I saw someone make an argument a few weeks back to say if we do lose our pick, you could say Grimes kind of was our pick for the season. Who might end up being better than a lot of the guys in the draft. He's probably around the same age as some of these guys too, by the way they're coming out nowadays. So I think in the end of the day, it's a success, because having the pick after this season is great, but if losing the pick at this point would be really rough. So let's not even talk about that possibility of not having anything to say to keep from it, right?
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point. The way the season unfolded, right? Not a success based on preseason standards. We're talking about one of the best teams in the East preseason wise, and last offseason we were ecstatic. But yeah, as the season went on, it became pretty glaring that the way we kind of structure the way we kind of tanked, but also getting Quentin Grimes. Seeing what we have in Justin Edwards, seeing what we have in Adem Bona. You have the building blocks to what Morey and Nurse did speak about in their exit conference or media time, where they did say that they kind of over-indexed on guys who were good in the playoffs, like i.e. Caleb Martin types last offseason, but now they want to kind of get younger and more athletic, and I think you already saw that the kind of building blocks of that throughout the season in the Quentin Grimes trade. Obviously, getting to see what you have from Justin Edwards on a full-time basis and Adem Bona. So I think with the way the second half of the season began with the tanking aspect, I think that already kind of jump-started how they wanted to kind of see what they're going to build this team around next year, because you still have Paul George, you still have Embiid, and what are the pieces around them? And you saw that midway through the season, that's the kind of the jump-start to next season is seeing what you have in the Justin Edwards and Adem Bona and Quentin Grimes of the world. So I think we're already off to that off-season based on the way they ended the second half of the season with some of those guys.
It was pretty much just talent evals the second half of the season. It was evaluating who you want to spend resources on, which I think they have a good idea. I think the number one, we'll talk about priorities of the offseason, but I think we know pretty much the guys that we like to have around, the guys that we feel like we need to have around to extend.
I mean, you got a free look at guys, but I never get caught up or carried away with when guys have success like that towards the end of the season. I don't think it's a real kind of example of guys earning minutes. I just think it's guys kind of showing they belong, but not necessarily earning minutes, because if you're not playing with those three guys, if you're not playing those minutes, and when you'll be a little more role specific, it's still going to be hard, because you have guys that have a little more freedom and they have more success and they have better numbers. But when you come and all of a sudden most of your shots are catch and shoot versus being able to have a pick and roll or in transition and have the ball
creating
more
yourself.
often. So with those limitations, how effective can you be? Not limitations on yourself, but those limitations is those limited opportunities.
Yeah.
Houses, and so everybody don't respond the same when the full unit is back. So I think it helped them take a look at guys, but to say that there's confirmation on guys' success, I wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah. I do agree. It's not confirmation of their success. But it was good to be able to evaluate some of these guys, I think. I think it definitely helped to see, I'm not by any means plugging Edwards in for 15, 20, 25 minutes a game next season. But you're looking at a guy like that, the coaching staff could be like, we could have something in this guy, like he's, it's a good, it's a good lead, right? Bona, same thing. It's like, oh, okay, we might have something in Bona. We might not need to go after, because Drummond said he's already coming back next year. So Drummond and Bona, you might be like, okay, maybe we don't need a backup big with the Embiid next year. So it's just good. It's good just to see guys thrive and do well with whatever situation you give them. I know it's not the real life one, because it's not, you said playing with all three of them. How about playing with one of them? They didn't play with any of those guys, like George, Embiid, Maxey, even McCain. We're missing four guys that are going to probably get major minutes, all four of those guys next year.
Yeah. Well, and also I think with what Eric said, because I think there's a false sense of, people think, we're going to have Quentin Grimes with Paul George and, Maxey. People are looking at Quentin Grimes, looking at the guy who's getting 40 points a game over with 3 games he did in the last 25 games or 40, where he dropped 40. That's not going to be the guy who's going to be paired with. It's going to be a different type of Quentin Grimes. We're going to get some aspects of that 40-point guy, but he's not going to be asked to be doing what he was doing in the last 25 games of the season. So there's going to be a little difference in what the kind of Quentin Grimes we get next year with everybody else. But Eric, to your point, Adem Bona, from what we saw from him, and from what we saw from him, is that something you can look at and be like, hey, based on what we saw from Adem Bona, he could be the backup 5 for Joel Embiid.
I mean, from a rookie perspective, what you establish with him is not necessarily what he can be for you. It's probably more of you seeing what he's able to do and what he does best, and you try to fit him into your plans or what you want to do. So it's more of, okay, well, here's who he is. This is the kind of success that he can have. And then you kind of go into the offseason thinking of this is the guy we have. This is what he brings to the table. To see if we can help him improve in other areas, but this is what we know we can get from him. So he might be a guy that can develop into that backup big, which means you can play him and use resources that you would usually go out and get somebody somewhere else. So he may be at that moment for them. I don't know. I think he did enough, but like I said, it's different. Are you able to kind of still be that impactful in playing 10 minutes versus playing 30 minutes, 15 versus, instead of 35. So that remains to be seen. I mean, we look at McCain, and the issue with him was not the issue, but the thing about him was his ability to turn limited minutes into success. And then those minutes continued to grow because he did that. Well, that was something he was able to do. And that's what I'm trying to say. Not everybody can't necessarily do that. So let's not assume just because a guy had some success later in the year when the roster was limited doesn't mean that they'll be able to carry that over to the same success when everybody's back.
Yeah.
So it's going to be that the spots around those guys are still going to be earned. It's still going to be earned, but they seen the potential what the guys have that you can see. Okay, well, these are the guys that are going to be fighting for those spots, and we'll see who gets it.
I was also just impressed with Bona's ability to cut down on fouling. That's one thing that I wanted out of him, aside from just the overall stats and play. Like, I like that he was able to improve as that last month went along. You know, not getting 5 fouls every game when we needed him to stay in the game. He actually did. That was a good improvement. And just overall, I mean, yeah, it was nice to see that. I guess in April he averaged 15, 8, and 2. So, you know, impressive.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and I remember we were excited about drafting him last year on our post-draft show. We kind of talked about how that was kind of a steal, how a lot of people thought he was going to go in the first round, and we ended up getting him in the second round. So, you know, Morey, people can say what they want about Daryl Morey, but Morey to come away with McCain in that draft, to come away with Bona in that draft, then to come away with Justin Edwards as a UDFA guy who a lot of people thought was going to be a first-round pick, and then I guess with the way his season went at Kentucky, made him a UDFA. Yeah, Daryl Morey home runs with with last year's draft class. So, you know, we'll see what he can do with this draft. Obviously, I think we were all hopeful that we can get the capture the flag sweepstakes. So it's the.
I mean, Butler even looked good at times.
Yeah.
As depth point guard, you know, I mean, these guys, again, they had a lot of opportunity to show things, so it's a little deceiving, like Eric said. But you know, they could also just not show anything when they get a lot of minutes. It doesn't mean you play well when you get a lot of minutes. It's still up to them to play well when you get minutes, and they took advantage of their time. Most of the guys on our team.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's all about. Is really just about taking advantage of the time that you get, and for the most part, the majority of the young guys or inexperienced guys did that. Actually, Grimes, probably had the most. Not probably did have the most success. It's helpful for him. Like I think that he'll be able to maintain it. I think that he'll be in a situation where he could have flashes of that. Because let's be real. Even if our guys come back healthy, they're going to miss some games. So, having a guy like that when they're out is able to step up, you can always benefit from that. Always benefit from having a guy like that.
Yeah, he shows he can go off if he put him into that role, which is good to know you can do that. I mean, look, Lonnie Walker shows he can go off if you give him that role.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a professional scorer. So you might have come up with a few good bench pieces and maybe a good role-playing starter in Grimes. I mean, it's just, it's just more positives to take away from a lost season, at least.
Yeah, a lot of silver linings. And, Lonnie Walker also said he wants to be back. He was, privileged to be playing with his local team that he grew up rooting for. So, hopefully he can stay. And I think he's on the hook for like a $2.9 million option.
I believe so, yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty good.
For Grimes? For Grimes, you're saying?
Lonnie Walker.
Oh, yeah.
So, and to talk about
Teja know everybody's salary. I don't know everybody's salary.
Yeah. Well, and also
let me pull up his bank account right now. Give me a second.
And he goes with the whole athleticism theme that they were talking about too. So youth and athletic, which what they were prioritizing apparently this coming year. So, and also too, at the same time, we talk about guys we're able to showcase it. I know we've been Ricky Council fans before, but even in this last 25 game window where he had more opportunity to kind of showcase himself, he really didn't kind of, pop. I guess his play didn't really stand out like some of these other guys we've mentioned, which is also, it can also go the other trend too, where, you think a guy could be a part of the future, but then you see, he didn't actually stand out when he was given a lot of minutes like he was in the last 25 games too. So it could go either way with the more minutes.
Yeah, Lonnie Walker club option 2.9.
Yeah. Is it okay? Yeah, I mean it's. I mean I think that you put it. Some guys did enough that the Sixers got to make some decisions on those roster spots.
Yeah.
The roster spots as far as who you're going to keep around, and roster spots as far as who's going to contribute, who you anticipate being in your rotation. The team could look different, and the team could still operate pretty much the same way, but it's going to be still different because we have a lot of guys that probably will work their way into the rotation that never played with our best three players.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? So, some promise with some of our young guys, but ultimately the goal is still to win. Ultimately, the goal is still to win. So,
with our
we'll
big
find
three.
out. Yeah.